everyone. My name is Anina. I'm the CEO and founder of 360 Fashion Network, and we are going live in 1 minute.
Hey guys, my name is Shar, and welcome back to another live stream. We're going live in 1 minute.
Hello, my name is Lettuce, and we're going live in 1 minute.
Hello, my name is Roger Lewis, and we're going live in 1 minute.
Hey everyone, my name is Anina. I'm the CEO and founder of 360 Fashion Network, and we are going live in 1 minute.
Hey guys, my name is Shar, and welcome back to another live stream. We are going live in 1 minute.
Hello, my name is Lettuce from Lettuce Travels, and we're going live in 1 minute.
Ooh, we have comments coming in, and my name is Anina. We are going live in 1 minute.
Hi, my name is Roger Lewis. I'm founder of
investigative journalist, best known for directing the film Vanishing of the Bees. We are going live in 1 minute.
Hey everyone, my name is Anina. I'm the CEO and founder of 360 Fashion Network. Welcome. Today we are going to be talking about coronavirus experience under lockdown, and we are going live in 1 minute.
Hey, I would just like to say hello to Charisse Gumisad. Thank you so much for confirming that we are live in my channel. We're going live in Lettuce Travels, 360 Fashion, Miriam. I can't say your last name. The BSC YouTube channel in 1 minute.
Great. Thank you, Shar, for looking after all the channels and checking we're going live. My name's Lettuce Travels, and today we're talking about quarantine. Stay tuned.
Everybody says, Anthony says, hi. Anina has clear audio. Everyone else is static or crackly. Just a moment for the live stream to pick up in 1 minute.
If you have any questions, then let us know. If you want to know what it's like living in quarantine, if you want to know how to stay entertained if you're in quarantine, or how to stay healthy, ask us your questions. We're on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook. We're everywhere. So ask us your questions.
Philosopher says, like a bee in a box. The French is out from Diz Faya M. 5x5 here from Unchained 001. And I believe that the audio is working now. John Doer says, you got Kung Fu. And Murgison, Thambian says, God bless you. I believe now we are live on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and we will be talking today about our coronavirus experience. My name is Anina. I'm the CEO and founder of 360 Fashion Network. I've been in Beijing since December 6th and basically not leaving my apartment. I'm being joined here by Shar. Shar, introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Shar, and welcome back to another live stream. So in this live stream, we're going to talk about life under quarantine. So like Nina, I've stayed in Beijing since the beginning, but I didn't know it was beginning until the middle of it. But I'm going to tell about that later on. So yeah, I think that's it. How about Lettuce? Lettuce, can you please tell us your interesting story?
Definitely. So my name is Lettuce. Up until 2 weeks ago, I was in England. But I had to make the tough decision to come back to China for work. So I'm in China now, I'm in Beijing, I'm in quarantine for a little over 2 weeks. I'm looking forward to my quarantine being lifted, but I do appreciate how it's helping keep everyone safe. So yeah, if you have any questions about life in China, about quarantine, then ask us. Roger, please tell us your situation.
Hi, I'm Roger, CEO and founder of BuzzCloud. I've been in China for the last year, and I've found awesome people, awesome processes, and I'm probably about the happiest as I've ever been. Now that COVID is blowing over in China, I think I am one of the most fortunate people on the planet to have gone through this thing while in China. We'll go into a number of reasons for that. Right now, I view myself as self-quarantined, but it's not a serious issue. I'm very comfortable. I'm not having any level of suffering that I'm concerned with. So welcome to our live stream. We're going out on all channels, plus about 10 others. And ask us any questions you have. We just might be able to help you with some answers.
Miriam.
So Roger,
Miriam, tell us where you are. You've escaped America and you're in South America.
Yes, so I've been, as a journalist, been covering this since I was in Los Angeles. Be 5 weeks now, I guess, right? It's been. So I've been covering it from all angles and really seeing what's in the horizon, and not concerned about the virus, but more about mandatory vaccines and the controls and the globalism, and looking along with the Google whistleblower Zach Voorhees on all sides of this, starting with a heavy dose of fear porn that we stumbled upon, which I now think might be manufactured from Taiwan. Who knows? And so I'm honored to be with you, and I'm sure lots of people have questions, but having covered this and really looking at the corruption with the CDC and the WHO, and the faultiness of the tests, and the fact that this might be a bioweapon, like, I am really interested to hear all of your stories. I am in Costa Rica. I wanted to come back to Costa Rica, but it's really been a calling of like, get out of America. And I think that I've reached at the 11th hour where I can watch what's unfolding, which I felt in my bones from the jungle in the mountains. So I consider myself to be very blessed, and I came here the day after COVID-19 arrived here. So I've been covering what's been on the ground and seeing the similarities in the narratives and the fear porn. So thank you for having me on the call. I'm honored to share this with my medical freedom fighting group, and I'd love to hear all of your stories.
So Justice Brianna says, hey, from San Francisco Bay Area, we are being warned that a quarantine for our country may be in the near future. Definitely want to know how to prepare for the best health food options that will last. Thanks.
I just came from San Francisco, and I'm a functional medicine consultant. It's good to be panic. Please up your dose of vitamin C, effective. Not wanting left San Francisco. So I believe it's coming, given that the president just announced national state of emergency, and on Friday the 13th issued a travel ban to Europe. That's the ban.
Roger gave me some great advice. He's a health biohacker, like totally hacking himself to 200. So maybe you got a few extra tips. He's definitely given me the zinc tip.
My first tip is not on supplements, it's on mental health. It's so easy to get whipped up into false information and disinformation. And whoever is putting these things out, they have their own agenda. But the damage that is caused by this when we're facing the pandemic is just untenably huge. So just fact, drill down on the source of it, and if you trust the source good and well, If it's on social media, ignore it because it's going to do you a lot of harm. So we've seen the figures that the US government has put out, between 70 million and 150 million may be infected. That's a big word. Those are huge figures. If it gets anywhere near there, we will be seeing the unraveling of civilization in America with those sort of numbers. So what we need to do is spread the word. Do not fall down due to fear-mongering. Ignore fear-mongering. Ignore it in capitals, in bold. Do not go down those rabbit holes, and you're going to find these rabbit holes pop up in every inbox you've got. Ignore them. Cut them off. I got lucky. I was following the WHO. I look at them through very jaundiced eyes, which I know are in common ground. And I looked at what they were doing, and I thought, well, they should really have said pandemic about 2 or 3 weeks ago, but they eventually got it out. They are too.
He was saying it. He was saying it in doublespeak. Tedros was hinting that, but in doublespeak, it's a pandemic, but it's not a pandemic.
Yes, that's basically took after his own reputation and his own. People in these powerful positions should not be obliged to take measures like that. Unfortunately, it's too politicized, it's too corrupt. It's just not. You be careful of what comes out of the organizations like that. In China, of course, everything is going to have the Chinese flavor. It's going to have Beijing's particular viewpoint. So weigh up where the information comes through. Be aware that in our world we've got China and good USA and busy. What makes you imagine that you're going to get good quality information out of any outlets? It's just not going to happen. So you, as an individual, our listeners, you've got to wake up and say, okay, is this information something that I can trust? Is this something that I can verify? And you're not normally called on to do that. But I promise you, if you have any sanity, you're going to have to start verifying each information that can change the course of which will go.
So why don't
from the American perspective?
Okay, Miriam, I'm so sorry to interrupt you because there's a lot of people saying that the audio is not good. We have an audio problem, so we can't hear Roger that well. I'm so sorry. Brazil Nut said audio is also the audio problem. So
I also said the audio is dropping.
yeah. But because I can hear Roger clearly, there's any problem hearing his word clearly. Hold on, guys, we're experiencing technical difficulties. Please don't leave the live. It may just be a connection problem.
I'm going to try to unload the core and see if that changes something.
And say it's audio.
I'm going to unload the core, guys, and see if that does something. If the call drops, we will reconnect within a few seconds, and we may not lose the stream. So just a minute. I'm going to try that to see if that works. And let's go. I just push the button.
Adina, I'm good. When I rejoin, I'm not going to come back as video because that's probably what's
No.
audio.
Wait a minute. I'm just going to see if I just unloaded the core and shut the program down. Could you all start talking again?
Okay.
Test.
Ooh, that's working.
Hello.
Can everyone hear us clearly?
Let us hear on mute.
On my side, you're all coming in clear now.
Okay, cool.
How about you? Could you all start talking, please?
Hey. Is this clear now? Brazil Nut, can you please? Oh, it worked. Okay, thank you so much, Camo Masso. Is that how you pronounce it?
Okay, great. So, shall we do a quick round robin because nobody could hear who we were for the audio sound? So let's just do a round robin. I'll pass the ball and you guys pass the ball. Hi, my name is Anina. I'm the CEO and founder of 360 Fashion Network. I've been in Beijing since December 6th on just staying at home and working from home. And I'm going to be telling my story soon of how the whole coronavirus developed here and what I've done about it. And I'd like to introduce and pass the ball to Shar.
Hi, I am the girl who's commenting. Thank you so much for the feedback on Miriam's channel. And yeah, I will be monitoring a lot of the other people's channel as well. Thank you so much, guys, for your feedback. My name is Shar. I've been here in Beijing like Anina, since the beginning, but I didn't know it was beginning. I've only found out maybe in the middle of it, and I was out and about before that. I'm gonna tell that more later on. Yeah, how about Lettuce? Lettuce, can you please share your interesting story one more time?
Hello, my name is Lettuce. I'm originally from England, but I've been living in China for about 3.5 years. I wasn't in China for January or February. I only came back to China on the 1st of March, so I'm still currently in quarantine and I can't leave my apartment. If you have any questions about quarantine or life in China, feel free to ask me. Roger, please can you introduce yourself?
Hi, sure. I'm Roger. I'm the CEO and founder of BuzzCloud. We're looking after the bees and trying to make sure that we use proper tools such as AI to debug the problem that's facing our bees in terms of pollination, not honey. We're not interested in honey. The pollination is the important thing. I've been in China for just over a year sorting out production for my company, and about a quarter of the way into that I realized that other startups are facing exactly the same problems as we are. And then, of course, early this year, COVID came over my horizon, and I realized, all right, this is going to change everything. It's going to disrupt economies and supply chains, and this is exactly what's happening now. So any questions in those sort of fields, I'll be happy to answer, and I hand over to Miriam.
Thank you so much. I am known as the Bee Lady. This is just a coincidence. So thank you, Anina. I'm best known for directing the film Vanishing of the Bees. I'm also a functional medicine consultant, and I've been covering everyone's virus, the celebrity virus, the honey badger virus, COVID-19 since its inception. On Man on the Street with Zach Voorhees, the Google whistleblower. Is this the virus that didn't cry wolf? And people are not going to pay attention. It's going to be easy as far as the story in the narrative. So I'm going to be here. I have lots of questions to the reality compared to we have been digesting in America, and I am Costa Rica. Felt the call to get the F out because I don't want to live under global medical martial law.
Great. So why don't we all start?
I'm passing it over to you, Anina. Sorry.
No
problem. Miriam, it seems that they didn't hear you clearly.
But you can.
Yeah.
But I have a very good audio though. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I think you know what? I think it's just a connection problem. It's about audio setup because they said that they could hear Anina well and Les as well, and then they can't hear me that well, and then Roger was okay, and then Miriam cannot hear you.
Okay, I'm going to close all windows and see if that's going to help. Maybe they can tell me.
Is to minimize the graphics screen. So we're all looking at pictures of each other. Make those pictures as small as possible on whatever you're using. That can minimize the bandwidth requirements.
Good idea.
Okay, thank you.
Justin said that now Shar is breaking up too. I don't want to break up with you guys.
I don't want you to break up with us.
I'm doing what I can on the back end to stabilize the stream. So if you see me doing stuff, I'm focusing on that.
They said that everyone is breaking up. Better?
That's too bad. We could try to disconnect and connect again. Do you think that it
I think
does it make a difference if you use a VPN or not?
Well, right now we've
Nina?
unloaded the VPN, so just wait 1 second. I'm adjusting some things in the bit rate.
Roger, you're sideways.
You know, guys,
Okay.
what we are doing right now is what you do with a bad relationship. We're working this out right now. What I'm doing, what I did is
Toxic breakups here, please.
I just turned my camera to a lower version, so I'm now
How did you do that? How did you do that? Maybe we can all
Yeah, 'cause I'm
degrade.
using a Manicam.
Okay, I'm gonna go to my video settings and see.
Top left.
My recommendation
Top left.
is that
Top left is perfect. Everyone else is rough.
Yeah, so here's what I would like to do. So, by the way, this is all a really big test. So, last year I invested and almost broke the bank at my company in investing in online event software and live streaming, and my whole year this year was already planned to be doing all sorts of activities online and live. And then, et voila, never could have anticipated this. So, it's a bit experimental right now because this is the first time I've had 5 live streams and 5 YouTube channels and 5 Facebook pages and Twitter all simultaneously. So I apologize for that because you never know it until you do it. So there you go. But really appreciate everybody being here and testing because I can't test by myself. So what I'm going to suggest is everybody, one by one, will please hang up. I'm going to keep this live since I'm working, and then can we try and dial you back in? So first of all, Miriam, could you say something? And I want to see how your audio is.
Test 1 2 3.
So it seems like from my perspective, your audio is clear. Lettuce, could you speak?
Hello, my name is Lettuce from Lettuce Travels.
You sound great.
Thank you.
Yeah, Brazil Nuts, can you please leave a comment on how Lettuce sounded just a while ago?
Beautiful,
Because she said,
articulate,
or he.
smart.
See, I think the line is stabilizing.
So he just said, "Oh, lettuce is not clear."
Oh.
Okay, so let's do what Anina said. Wait,
but I think you're all clear now. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying I've been changing the bit rate on the back end, and from my perspective, you're all clear now. Sometimes we need time for the, by the time I check it here, by the time it sort of like goes through the pipe and ends up over there and does all the connecting, it takes about a minute or 2 minutes. That's why we have to, for the new stream to sort of packet data or whatever it is to go through. So I just think that you're all clear now.
So shall we start again?
Brazil Nut said, "You might sound great to each other, but everyone but the person on the top left, that's you, Anina, with a hat, is not clear. So anyone but you, just you're the one who's clear." So
okay, then I won't say anything and you guys start. The rule with tech is do what's working. Wherever the wormhole is open, shove the information down. So if I'm not working, that's fine. That is the rule of thumb. The wormhole is open now for you guys. I'm happy to just stay focused on what I'm doing. Let's start with Lettuce's story, if that's okay with everyone.
Of course.
Hi everyone, my name's Lettuce. So on the 1st of March I came back to China. It was a difficult decision to make. All of my friends and family told me not to come back to China. At the time, coronavirus was only known to be in China and it was considered the worst place to be. But I had to come back because I wanted to do my job well. I'm an English teacher and I was going to be teaching online. and I didn't want to have to teach at night time in the UK because there's a very big so back to China, and it was a very clear, simple process. I think everything went well. At the Heathrow Airport in London, they took my temperature. I completed an online health form. Then everyone on the plane had a mask on. When I got to Beijing Airport, it was very efficient. Everyone was very calm. I was really impressed with the staff. No one was running around like, coronavirus, like I thought they might be. We filled in another health form. They took our temperature, and then we went through the regular customs procedure. It was so quick, probably the quickest landing I've ever had in Beijing. And then I just got a taxi straight to my university campus. Normal things happened, like I had to register. When you're a foreigner in China, you have to register. And then they just took me to a new apartment, this place. And I have to stay inside this apartment for 18 days. I'm not allowed outside. If I need food, I order it online and someone brings it to my door. And I must admit, I'm very comfortable. Just like Roger said, I have no complaints. With online shopping and the kindness of the staff on campus, I'm doing okay. Thank you for letting me share my story, Anina.
Could you also tell about how when you came to the campus, and talk about the apartment they put you in, and then, you didn't know that you couldn't go back to your apartment, stuff like that. And also, if Miriam, if you have questions, please feel free to be moderator. I'm just going to be following the stream and try to do my best on the tech end.
A perfectly healthy person. I don't know your history, but I run a low-grade fever. I had the foresight to ask my doctor 3 weeks ago to write a letter saying, because I don't want them, I'm already targeted, I don't want someone to take me aside and quarantine me, because what I've seen is that they're taking healthy people and they're mixing them with unhealthy people. So weeks ago, they showed on CNN, and maybe you guys have seen this, they had this very Vogue-like football player showing that quarantine looks like a poor man's Club Med, where you can actually learn how to take your taxes, and maybe a Zumba class, literally a Zumba class. So the Americans are going to think, hey, Margaret, looks like a good resort, let's go. And it's not going to be like that. It's going to be welcome to your FEMA camps. So did they bust out the fever gun? And were you concerned that they would mix you up?
Good question. So at the moment, I'm completely by myself. I'm so alone that I have to have dance parties by myself in my apartment for fun and exercise. They don't want me near anybody. When somebody does come to my door with my food shopping, they wear a mask and I wear a mask. There's as little contact with people as possible. Everything's done by phone. I talk to my boss on my phone. I do my teaching online. I'm definitely kept separate from the herd completely. I'm not in contact with anyone, so I'm not worried about catching it. I actually feel safe because I am by myself. Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about this daily form that you have to fill out?
Yeah, it's very quick and easy, just 2 pages. The first page is my name and which apartment I'm in. And then the second page is what's my temperature and do I have any symptoms. And that health form goes to my community, the head of my building, community manager. And if there's anything that is concerning, then they would call me. And next steps, I guess, would be get a doctor or something.
And so after the quarantine, then what happens to you, Lettuce?
Well, after quarantine, hopefully, I should be able to go back to my old apartment and get my belongings. Because right now, I'm in an empty apartment. So I'll get my belongings, and I'll be more comfortable because I'll have a big duvet, I'll have my other laptop, I'll have, my nice stuff. And then if I want, like Shah or Anina, I'll be able to go outside. I'll be able to go to the local shop if I want to. People even go to the park in Beijing. So yeah, I'll be able to venture outdoors.
Is the idea you were taken to this wherever you are because it's sanitized and your apartment might be infectious? What's the rationale, and why will it be safe after you're on an 18-day quarantine?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to say something about that because we've been hearing, or at the CDC in America, that they're quarantining people for 14, even though studies have come out that show that you can be symptomatic. So it's a little bit, I'm going to refrain from saying the word that starts with R that I want to say. So it doesn't make any sense. So why is it different in Beijing?
I'll answer your first question first about why am I not in my normal apartment. My normal apartment is actually it's a student dormitory. Usually, I used to live in the student dorms, and it has an air system which goes through all the rooms. So if I was infected and went into that room, it would then
Lettuce, can you wait a minute? Just wait a minute for the stream to stabilize because you broke up there for a minute.
Yeah.
Okay, now you can start again and start again from the central air system.
Okay, now I'll answer your second question about why 18 days. To be honest, I don't know. So, today is my 14th day in quarantine, and I was hoping to be released either on Saturday, Sunday, or Monday, because then I could go to my old apartment and get my stuff. I messaged my contact, the guard who brings my food to me, and I said, hey, when does my quarantine end? And he said it ends on the 18th of March, and I said, okay, I'm not questioning it. I don't want to annoy anybody. What's 4 more days? You know, it's completely fine. I probably could find out if I spoke to some more people, but to be honest, don't trouble unless trouble troubles you. Let sleeping dogs lie.
I like
4
that.
more days. 4 more days is okay for me. Yeah.
How about Shar share a little
interesting.
bit of her story right now, and then you'll get everybody's story, and then you'll know Miriam. You can cross-reference them together. Shar, how about you?
Yeah.
You tell us a little bit about your story.
I want to add something because I didn't leave Beijing, right? But a lot of my Filipino fellows, they went out of Beijing, and a lot of them wanted to come back because of work. And one shared an experience in the group, so I'm just gonna read read to you. Okay, so she said, today is the first day implementation where all travelers from overseas into Beijing will be brought to Shunyi Exhibition Center for registration, including locals. The high-risk countries, Italian, Iran, Korea, Japan, and etc. For travelers with fever, suspect, or they will send to another location. So she at 6:50, so she has like time stamps here. At 6:50, she arrived at Tashing Airport. At 12 p.m. Yeah, 12 p.m. I was among the last batch to leave the plane together with some Malaysian in the group. She waited 5.5 hours in the plane.
Enough to give you a fever.
Yeah, so I don't know the reason, but she just said okay. And then at 1 p.m. they were able to get off the plane, and they were escorted by a police car, an army car, and another car which she did not luggages near the whole entrance. They then collected the luggages, and staff wearing white suits guided them to the hall. They were asked which district are they going, and they were guided to the respective counter for registration. So this is what happened. There are registration counters based on district. Chaoyang was more like a lot of people, I guess, but it was quite fast, about 10 minutes. There are other counters for foreigners and locals. Foreigners are given priority. Okay. And they did the registration with the police. They gave their full name address, contact number, and I'm not sure this is a Chinese name. I think it's a compound name. The staff reminded them to do the self-quarantine for 14 days at home. For other district, you don't need to wait. You just need to go to the registration and the staff will guide you. She did give some warning. So everyone should wear a mask. You cannot remove your mask in the exhibition hall. No food or water will be provided, but if you want some water, you can request. During the registration, they're asked whether they have family in China to pick them up or they want them to send them back home. So she opted for the latter option. And then the government provided them with the transport. All the staffs are very friendly. So after that, so it's been a long time. After that, she arrived at her apartment at 5:10, and surprisingly, the Uya, that's like the what's that called? The manager of the compound was there, accompanied by a police officer. So they escorted her to her apartment. Yeah. So this is what will happen if you guys come back to Beijing, because they're really strict now. They before there were a lot of rumors that self quarantine is really not mandatory, that you can opt to not do that. But right now, Beijing said that it is required. You need to do this 14 days self quarantine.
So, Anina, can I jump in there? Is that all right?
Absolutely.
Just a quick overview of the circumstances we have in China. Very interesting to hear from you, Shah. But if you look at the response of the Chinese nation to this thing, it's been brutal. And I'm using an emotive word there, so beware of that. One of the situations are, if you don't take brutal action in the face of something like this, it's going to end up like the rest of the world. And the rest of the world is not in a good position to handle this thing. We are much sure of that. Otherwise, we wouldn't be getting ourselves out of places like the United Kingdom and the United States. So we're looking at these things against our knowledge of how the authorities in these countries will act. I'm right now trying to get my daughter out of Britain because I have absolutely no confidence in Britain being able to handle this. We've all probably seen reports that Italy, first world country in Europe, is facing triage on COVID patients. I had to explain that to my daughter. When she understood what I was saying, I then said to her, I think the United Kingdom may well face triage because I've lived there for 20 years. I know that the National Health Foundation, NHS, has been so radically underfunded for more than 10 years. They don't have two pennies to rub together. How can they possibly treat COVID patients on any elevated scale? They cannot. In fact, I got a text from the NHS in Britain saying, don't go to your doctor's centre, stay at home, even if you're ill. So that's not triage. Then I don't know how you define triage. It's sort of self-imposed triage. So brutal response is required. Once again, I'm delighted that I'm in China because the people have listened. And that's quite unique to China, where if the government official says jump, the people don't stand around and say, well, how high do you want me to jump? Is it 6 inches or 12 inches or 18 inches? They freaking jump. And that is why China is in remission now. That is why the number of infected cases in China is bottoming out. I think it was 20 yesterday. Are you concerned with 20 new infectious cases in a country the size of China? I'm not. I'm looking at that particular figure. That is a key figure, the number of new infections. All the other figures, they take second place. So brutal response is absolutely needed. And the people have been polite in my experience. I've not had anybody who's been over the top. It's been inconvenient from time to time. It's a little bit inconvenient. Right now, I'd love to go to Hong Kong to do some shopping. You know what? I can't. Hong Kong is out of bounds. I'm not going to spend 14 days in Hong Kong and another 14 days on the way back into China. So I'm under self-quarantine and pretty damn happy about that. Okay, back to you, Anina.
So we have some questions here from the audience. So first of all, about quarantine. I think this is directed at lettuce. They're asking, so even if you don't have symptoms, you have to go into quarantine. That's a question. And then, but people say, I think this is directed at Shar and Roger, but people say it's not that bad and we shouldn't be scared of it. But the thing is, if we don't, we will proporage it. And so I just like to clear the slate on that very clearly. It's like this. The 3 things that are important about coronavirus. Is it a flu? Whatever. Flu, bioweapon, who cares? Flu, okay? If it's a flu, then here's the thing. Number 1, 14-day period that you don't know and you feel fine that you have it. So you're walking around, and I don't give a shit that you're keeping 6 feet distance from people. You're touching everything. Doorknobs, handles, shopping carts, railings. You are touching things and you are a walking bomb of deliverability to everyone else. Number 2, then the second thing is that there are only a certain number of ICU beds. I believe the number is like 1,500 or 2,000 in America. Doesn't matter. The point is that there are a limited number of these specific beds that are needed to treat the situation. Number 3, compound interest. Y'all understand the idea of compound interest for money. You put in money, a day 1, and then it doubles. But then that doubled amount doubles. And then that, doubled amount doubles. And then you get this large amount of money at the end in a very short period of time, financially speaking. Well, coronavirus is exactly the same thing. Day 1, you have 1 person. Day 2, you have 10 people. Day 3, you have 30 people. Day 4, you have 150 people. Day 5, you have 600 people. And I'm just making these numbers up to illustrate to you how it compounds. And then what happens? Okay, then you reach equal ICU beds to infected people. All right, you're fine. Then you get healthcare people get infected. So now there's less healthcare people in the hospitals treating people, and there's no more ICU beds. So y'all remember the whole aerial photos where, China starts digging and bringing in people and building hospitals? Well, that's exactly what's happening in Italy right now, but they don't have the infrastructure to build whole new buildings and build in bulldozers. Now they are taking over like conference centers to put more beds in there because there are no more beds in the hospitals. When you have no more beds in the hospitals and the number of staff is decreased, then you start to break the healthcare system. The entire thing starts to implode, and then you have a complete overrun. And I think Miriam can send us more information about that, but that's basically what happens. And the only way to stop this is to, number 1, stop all motion. Do not drive, do not go for a period of time. Number 2, wear a mask. This stuff out there saying that masks don't work. Masks do 2 things. If it is a N95 mask, then yes, incoming virus will be stopped. But the most important thing is to stop you from touching your mucous membranes, from touching a railing or a shopping cart or a box that was handled 14 days ago by somebody and then touching it to your face. I do podcasts all the time and people are always touching their skin and their face completely unconsciously, okay? Glasses, the same. Glasses keep you from rubbing your eye. I have to constantly remind myself not to touch my eye. Gloves, latex gloves,
this has always been the
layer.
case. We live with viruses. We have a virome. This has always been the case. Are we, I'm an adult and I'm learning now, they're being taught how to wash my hands. In Costa Rica, wherever, Beijing, America, there's signs from the CDC on how to wash your hands. So what is this that we're all scared of? That's what I want to know. Is this maybe, like Roger is saying, people are obedient because it's a social credit system and people are obedient. They're unruly here in America, and they're spoiled as well. What is this? Is it being heightened like we're hearing in places like Wuhan, where there's smart cities where we know? I've lived across of a Wi-Fi tower. Is that what's expanding? Is it because there's mandatory vaccines? Is it because every two people today has a chronic illness? And if that's the case, why have we waited so damn long for China to tell America? And with places like Russia, they don't have lots of cases because they closed their borders. Now it's March 14th. This is when we decide to do a travel ban. Hello? And what about people who have fever, like myself? I'm a walking duck now. Now I'm someone that a fever is a fucking good thing. It's what makes your body fight something. So if they're going to bust out the weapon gun, is this really about a virus, or is it about global control and an economic reset? So I want to know, you guys are in Beijing. There's cases here in Costa Rica, and I could tell you what they're doing here and what they're doing in America. But what have you actually seen? Because the fear porn that I have seen and the calls that is that the funeral workers are working 24/7. Maybe it's not the case now, but 2.5 weeks ago. Zach has been looking at sulfur dioxide, where it seems like they're burning more. So if they're spraying the shit out of the streets and they're using bleach, that's a toxin. You have a pulmonary issue that's going to compound it. So what have you guys actually seen as far as what this is? Or is it just fear? Or is it a bioweapon that has a spike in it that makes it mutate and act like a chimera? Sorry, I just went on a rant. I apologize. There's a lot there, but I really want to hear what have you seen and what are your thoughts as to what I'm saying?
So I saw a video clip of, I think it was an American woman riding a bicycle through some district in Wuhan about 3 weeks ago, and she's taking video on her mobile phone, and you could very clearly see typical Chinese buildings where the ground floor was commercial entities, all roller shuttered, closed. Now in China, if you're not from China, we know that most of these roller shuttered buildings on the ground floor have fairly large accommodation buildings on top of them. That wasn't shown. Not all of them, but pretty much that's how architecture is arranged in Chinese cities. So you'll have a high-rise building, 30, 40 floors of accommodation, and the bottom 2 or 3 floors are commercial operations. At that point in time, when that clip was shot, all the commercial operations were closed, and it certainly looked like there were dead bodies wrapped up in blankets, with all due respect that you would expect, every few meters. I don't want to go into any more detail of that, but the facts are that's what it looked like. So are we ever going to know whether this is bioengineered or a natural thing? I would say highly unlikely. The man in the street is just not going to be able to get that information. We just have to work with what we've got. So we know people were dying in Wuhan. What do you expect to see? I would expect to see dead people wrapped up in blankets, given all the respect of a Buddhist society. And the authorities will come and collect them and dispose of them. Now, you mentioned the sulfur thing. I dug into this on behalf of my good friend and colleague, Nina. We had a conversation about that. The amount of sulfur that's in a human body is less than 0.01% of the weight of the body. The number of bodies that you would have to dispose of using fire to be able to read it remotely from a sensor in a satellite flying over China is more than the population of China. I haven't done the math, but when I realized that, oh, we're not full of sulfur, I realized this was just fear-mongering. Drop it. Move on. And when it comes to even...
Sorry, I just want to say something to that we have to put into perspective that China has a lot of... they had ordered incinerators, and then they passed it off as the incinerators were being ordered to burn bodies. That's how they maligned it in the mainstream. But it looked back, you could see that in last year, the end of last year, the people of China had actually protested in regards to the pollution. Can you address that?
I am nowhere near an expert on the pollution, apart from what I have seen in the mainstream media reports from in China and outside China. It appears that the industrial pollution has gone down tremendously, very measurably, using remote sensing satellites with remote sensors on them. So that just makes an awful lot of sense. It lines up with my experience where I'm living at the moment, just north of Shenzhen. I'm surrounded by manufacturing utilities and factories and buildings. So I happen to live in a 30th story building, and I can look out, and as far as I can see a few either isolated islands of similar developments to what I'm living in, but the rest of it is these 5-story factories and buildings. And since the beginning of the Spring Festival, all the factories shut down, and every single Chinese worker and most senior management went back to their home villages. Now, this is not something which the Western world is familiar with. Here in China, this happens like clockwork every single year. They all go back and they visit their families. It's supposed to be a lovely time of year. You go and renew your familial bonds and get to know everybody again, and that's great. This time around, because it happened when Corona broke here in China, the government simply said, hey, guys, don't go back to your work. Stay off. The government even put out initiatives, and there were some private sector initiatives where they said, you know, if you're going to stay off, we suggest you stay off. Don't go back down to your work in the big cities. We'll pay your rent for March and April. Rent forgiveness. So that was both a state initiative, and there were a couple of private large real estate investors who said similar things. And here in China, there are reasons that would work economically related to Guangxi, or the Western world would know that as relationship capital. So I can't explain, I'm not an expert on pollution, but I can only tell you what we've seen. If you look at China's economic output, yes, of course, that's scratching along at the bottom of the barrel for the simple reason that most companies are still obeying the constraint. Their staff have not come back. In my personal opinion, which for what it's worth, not a lot, I reckon about 30% of the in the region where I am, no more. And the companies that are active are all operating with skeleton staff, and so they're just trying to pick things up and get things going. And is it working? Yeah, it's coming back to life. There's a sense of normalcy. There is no sense of panic here, just nothing like panic. There is no sense of pervasive fear. When this thing hit the Chinese people, I've had the honor of knowing a couple of Chinese families in the community where I'm living. And there was no fear, there was no panic. There was a quiet sense of, you know, it doesn't matter what it is, we're going to get through with this. We've been through stuff like this in thousands of years. This is not a big issue. We're going to get through with this. We are Chinese on their behalf. And that, let me tell you, brought goosebumps to my skin every time I've seen that, I've heard those things said by several of my friends here in the compound I'm living. I'm honored to be surrounded by people like this. Back to you, Nina.
I'd let Miriam continue. I'm just monitoring.
No, Anina, I want to hear your experience. I think that you were speaking with Zach earlier about why is it that Thailand doesn't have any cases of corona. Weren't you guys talking about that despite the fact that Chinese do go to Thailand?
So I don't know how many cases that they have or don't have, but I was talking with a lot of my fashion model friends that were not in Beijing. They all fled. Everybody has fled to Thailand because clearly there's no modeling going on here and no modeling going on anywhere. So everybody went to Thailand because they have friends in Thailand and they can hang out at their apartments. And so I was teleconferencing with several of them and I asked, you know, Anna, why are you not wearing a mask? And she said, oh, here, you know, no travel ban, no pandemonium. She said, because that in Chinese New Year, all the Chinese had been in Thailand and had, you know, if they were going to have an eruption, it would have already happened. And so they didn't have an eruption. That would have been like the first place after China that would have erupted because everybody was in Thailand for Chinese New Year. So, and and then we had people fleeing, China to go to Thailand, and that after all the airlines shut down, only place open was Thailand. So everybody went there to hang out, and they said completely normal life, everything going on here. No, nothing from the government to tell us to alert us that there's any danger happening here. And yeah, all my friends are hanging out in Thailand, or Bali. So that's what I know.
I'm looking at the counter as you're speaking, the live coronavirus pandemic real-time counter, because this is like the global Hunger Games. So I'm just looking to see.
Yeah, I'm checking as well. So right now, like as of 3 days ago, March, this is like from usnews.com, March 12, 2020. As of that day, official reported 11 new cases, taking the national tally to 70. So I think it's kind of like the same thing with what happened to the Philippines. In the beginning, a lot of Chinese people went to the Philippines as well. The Filipinos were really, really angry, telling them, like, hey, why are you coming here? Why is the government not stopping everyone that is coming from Wuhan to come to Philippines? So I think it's just hitting them a little bit slow. But right now, we in the Philippines, some rumors, I don't know, please comment down below, my fellow Filipinos, like some rumors are actually circulating that the Philippine government, they're gonna lock down Metro Manila. That's like the capital of the Philippines. They're gonna lock it down. I'm not quite sure if that is true. So I think it's just hitting them a little bit slower than any other country.
I had an expat from the Philippines source evidence to me that I've posted on Twitter that they're suppressing and lying the numbers. He accessed some government pages and he filmed a glitch in the numbers where they bring them down. So I think that a lot of places are lying about the numbers, and certainly I think it's Peak Prosperity on YouTube that has been saying it's like quiet cluster bomb. Like there's just it just explodes, and that's what I bring back to why haven't they closed down the travel? Let's do this properly. What is the logic in America? Think about it, to not allow assemblies I think it was in France, of 900, of 1,000. Okay, so 999, we're all safe. One more person, and we're going to go ballistic. How about the fact in America, in a lot of states, they've not allowed 250? Is it because they don't want us to assemble? Is it because they do want to create social distancing? In a Canadian report on Global News, they're stating that they've put off weddings, which I can understand, but that they've also put off funerals. So how does that work? What are you doing? You're not burying? Are you putting someone in the fridge and waiting till COVID-19 passes through? So I'm looking at the inconsistencies, and I still don't have an answer as to. It seems that this is hitting elderly, and it seems that it's hitting people with chronic illness. So you, Roger, saw some footage. Have any of you, Anina, Shar, Lettuce, seen any footage? Have you seen, for instance, spitting footage? Can you comment on that?
No, not really. Yeah, I haven't seen any footage of really sick people. I've seen a lot of footage online in Chinese social media of patients, but they were happy. They were lying on their beds, but they're happy and they're talking. But never really, like, really sick people.
That is so complete. Sorry, just so completely different than what we're getting. Go ahead. Sorry, Anina.
I just wanted to say that I had a podcast the other day with one of the speakers based in Shanghai for my upcoming, digital fashion conference, and I was asking her how's the situation in Shanghai, and she said that her CFO maybe has coronavirus and is definitely exhibiting symptoms of that, and so they are dealing with that as a company. So I would say that was just within the last week. So, and that's sort of one person removed from me that with inside her company has it.
I would just like to say, I haven't seen anything, no videos, no pictures. I'm not looking for this stuff. I happily keep my head in the sand. And anyway, even if I did see a video, I wouldn't trust it. I wouldn't trust a photo. People have got amazing skills at editing video and photos. I won't trust anything unless it comes from a person I know personally. First hand is the only person I'm going to trust. Yeah, that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, thank you. So neither you and Nina, you haven't seen any people up close. Can you share a little bit about your story and in your conditions under self-quarantine or quarantine?
So basically in December I started hearing about it. I think that's because I'm in the technology industry, which is closely aligned with the healthcare industry, which is closely aligned with supply chain and everything. And so I already in December was like, okay, we need to get everything from our lab that we can carry and bring it inside of the house, inside of my house. And then I was working with some of my interns and saying, hey, do you guys, want to work with us over the Chinese New Year? And then also talking with my designer and then a software engineer, and then trying to work with Roger in Shenzhen. And so so the first thing is that we had everything here, and for 3 days nobody left the flat, and we all were working on these robotic dresses that I'm working on. And then Shasha got the message that they were going to stop all of the trains and all of the transportation. So she coordinated with her auntie to drive them from Beijing to their hometown for the Chinese New Year, because she didn't want to get, stuck here. She wanted to be with her family. And so that was sort of January 18th that then the things started getting real here. And I started getting all of these messages from expats saying they're going to close the flights. You need to get out. And messages from friends saying, yeah, we booked the last flight and we're getting out. And luckily I had my good friend Roger here to sort of, support me. I would wake up with some new news thing that would bring my stress level to 195, and having Roger being like, okay, I just got this news. I don't know what to do with this information. And then he and I like researching it, talking it out, and then being in the groups like the YouTube group that I'm with Char and Lettuce in, and lots of people sharing information and cross-referencing very quickly. What the first thing that everybody did was all the group administrators on the WeChat groups stopped fake news. And everybody turned and said, do not put, and they would kick people out of the group if they posted fake news, like one strike, you're out, And so then we all started listening to the official news channels. At that point, Beijing and the global Chinese government started talking to the foreigners and saying, they wrote us a nice letter. Dear foreigners, as you know, there's a critical situation going on here. It was very nice. nice announcement. Please would you cooperate with us? It's very important that we have your cooperation so that we can all get a handle on this situation. I'm paraphrasing, but it was like the nicest little letter asking everybody to please cooperate with us. And then at that point, it still really wasn't like an official lockdown, but then rumors started happening, and in my church group online and stuff, they shut down church. We weren't going to meet anymore, and we started meeting online. And then in our small groups and stuff, people started reporting that they had to then register, and they were stopping the mail, and they were stopping the movement of transport of supply chain. And then that people were already taking initiative to not gather and to stay home. And then people were passing a lot of health information around. Then the masks ran out, and nobody could buy any masks anymore. And then the next thing that sort of happened was slowly the transport started opening up at the end of the Chinese New Year after the 17th. They allowed some flights to start happening. So I was able to get my hardware to Roger literally by someone carrying it on the phone and transferring it to him in Shenzhen. So then we could start working remotely again together. Still no factories online or anything like that. And everyone working from home. And we saw the entire country. This is what's amazing. And I think that it's an indication of what people should be doing right now. We saw 1.3 billion people tech up. Like we saw all of a sudden, like lettuce, schools saying, okay, we're just not going to open. And they started teaching classes online. We saw companies starting to do their businesses online. We saw Alibaba release suddenly really rapidly new features to allow better collaboration online. We saw that people started using drones to move things around. We saw that just a whole bunch of technologies come out.
What kind of stuff?
Like getting supplies into Wuhan. I saw some videos of them, dropping with drones, a box of, I assume, food. I saw also pictures and videos of people, being guided by drones to where they needed to go. And I think this really interesting thing is happening that number one, companies are starting to trust their employees to work remotely. And number two, people are testing remote working. Yeah, I know, right? Are starting to test remote working. Number three, the tools to make remote working and teaching and operating online teched up and started adding new, more collaborative features. Number four, like the trust of man and remote machine. Like it was never allowed before to fly drones. That's just not allowed, And then being in a close proximity to a drone, absolutely not allowed. Like that's just kind of drone flying 101. But now we see people working together with robots and drones, etc.
And this is seen as a good thing as the AI more embedded in society and less actual interaction with humans.
I find I have more interaction. I mean, just this live stream that we're doing right here is like a testimony to me that we can have meaningful collaboration online. And I think that just from my church group in general, lots of collaboration online. It takes 45 minutes in Beijing to get anywhere. Lettuce has to travel 2 hours to get to the campus where she teaches. Now she goes 5 feet, maybe Lettuce can talk a little more about that. But just in summary of my, story, just from a business perspective, I just started trimming the fat immediately, shutting down unneeded servers and services that I was paying for. I started working with actually a whole team of like Filipino remote workers and VAs to help me with social media and getting all this tech set up and so on. And then also learning how to have events online and working with our event software to start producing online events. I think this is very interesting. I consulted for a education company to help them get online. And if you think about it, there was all these women that are TAs, teaching assistants, and they're generally older women who can barely like deal with their mobile phone. And suddenly they're asked to control and work within this whole piece of software. And it was just incredible. Like they don't even have glasses, so they have to lean into the screens like this to see. And I had to like help them to set it up so it's more of a feeling that we're together and so on. So it's just been super interesting to watch all of these people who were at zero tech suddenly have to adopt all this tech. And I think that is going to change our world completely. And from a business perspective, I think there's lots of opportunity to come out of this. I don't think we need to just look at this like, oh, my business is going to take a dive bomb. Actually, we need to embrace this opportunity.
Well, exactly. Everything what happens to the world is an opportunity to knit knowledge is one. It's like kicking up and Nancy quarantine. Of course, as a testament to your of community spirit. And
Miriam, I'm going to stop you for just a minute. Your sound is really bad. Let's wait for the line to stabilize. I'm just going to see if I can improve that. I'm very sorry. I apologize. But what you're saying is very important, and I'd like everyone to hear it. I'm sorry. Lettuce, could you speak? Tell me if we can hear you clearly.
Yeah, it's interesting what
How about you, Shar?
I
Yeah, I think we have to wait a minute. My apologies. Roger's also sort of missing. I think we need to wait for just a minute. I'm going to do a little bit of adjusting of the bit rate, and just let us wait a moment while the line stabilizes. I can see in the back end that the stream bit rate is going down. Just a moment. Temporary interruption. Okay, Miriam, would you try again? No, sound is, sorry. I'm sorry. I can see that it's frozen here. Just wait a moment. I'm at 52% of optimization. I'm just, give me 1 minute to have it reboot. I'm clearing the stream. It just is doing it slowly, so just give me a minute.
Out there.
T-E-C-H.
87%, just a moment. The line is getting better, just a minute. Maybe we can take a minute and answer on the chat, you know? There's lots of questions coming in.
If you I'm and then people something not related to that.
Oh, in my channel, please like and share.
If you are, I'm in Latin.
Are you talking, bro? Are you
Yeah. I just me or he was just how I met and he was cool or thing. So it's a whole bunch of or social life
I'm going to try to load the core and see if that can help.
to for as known to be it's piece of actions and positives.
Do you have any suggestions along the line
I mean, people take vitamin C. So you're in high quantities, vitamin C is actually oxidative and doesn't eat that you have luxury. I offer a little so it hepatic very dependent. They're alone. That if that helps.
Yes,
It's all about the immune system.
Yeah.
You were saying lettuce about the air con, okay? So think about the cruise ships where it's a petri dish of, I went for a sustainable event, but it was completely unsustainable. So it's a petri dish of viruses, and they're quarantining people in they're basically floating prisons. How does that work?
Okay, from my perspective, you are all back. I've just been busting my butt there.
Thank you.
Sorry.
I just want to know from the audience.
Brazil Nut just said
Not according to Brazil Nut.
Well, it takes about a minute for the new data packets to arrive on their side. So in about a minute, it's already fixed on my side. They need the time for the data packets to get over on their side. So they're naturally in lag time. But I just want to know from you all, is it better? From me, it's perfect now.
I think there was no problem on my side. I can hear everybody clearly.
Me too. It's not a problem within
coming through loud and clear here.
Yeah.
Well, on my side, y'all are fixed now. So
is she the only person, or he?
I don't know. Team Stella said yes. You guys are back. Brazil Nuts just confirmed. Miriam is 80%. Whoa.
80%. I like how Brazil Nuts has a meter.
Thank you for helping us. This is experimental. I'm just learning how to optimize. I have never had this many guests on before. I'm super excited.
No, this is
I just
awesome.
want to take a minute and because if people are joining now, my name is Anina. I'm the CEO and founder of 360 Fashion Network. I'm in Beijing. I've been on lockdown since December. I'd love to pass it over to Lettuce to introduce ourselves. Let's just take a minute and reintroduce ourselves to everybody who's joining right now on our stream.
Hello, my name is Lettuce. I'm from England, but I've been living in China for 3.5 years. January and February, I was on holiday in England, but I came back to China on the 1st of March. And now I'm currently in quarantine. So if you have any questions about quarantine, let me know. Okay, I'm speak to Shah.
Sorry. I gotta say, I really, really do love you. I really love you, man. It's Anina with an A and Lettuce with an I. She just commented, speak Lettuce, speak like the best. I love you. Okay, sorry. My name is Shar, and I stayed in Beijing throughout the beginning. You all can hear each other, like, yeah, okay. I think that's all. How about Roger? I'm gonna hand over the mic to you.
Hi there, I'm Roger Lewis. I'm the CEO and founder of BuzzCloud. We are using AI and high tech to look after the bees because they pollinate the most nutritious food that all you guys and gals love out there. That's what we're doing for business. I've been in China the last year. When COVID came over my personal horizon, I realized that it was going to be a fairly major upset. It has been a major upset in China. But those of you who are really listening, you'll notice I'm referring to it as the past tense in China. And essentially, China has squashed this thing. So the rest of the world needs to wake up and look at how China got that right. Number of new infected yesterday was 20. That doesn't worry me at all.
Yeah.
I think within a couple of weeks, China will have no new infections because of the measures they've taken. The majority of those 20 were in Wuhan, sort of ground zero. That is still under lockdown. A small minority, this case is brought in back from overseas countries infected with it. So China is locking down its borders. But I'm enjoying it here. It's great to be in China at this point in time. We're looking at the economy coming back online. It is coming back online slowly but surely. And if you have any questions about the economy, or if you need face masks, or if you need temperature guns, you never know. We can help you with all these things. Over to Marianne.
Miriam, hi. So I have the honor to be with you guys today, and I'm an investigative journalist and functional medicine consultant, and I'm best known for directing a documentary on the disappearance of the bees called Vanishing of the Bees. And I've been covering COVID-19, everyone's virus, since the inception back in Los Angeles, and I feel like I got out of the 11th hour because I'm personally not scared of the virus, but the controls and the mandated vaccines that would invade on my constitutional rights. And I'm still concerned, like when you talk about 20 new cases in China, do you know what the treatments are? Because we're hearing that, you know, this sequencing has an HIV component, and that they're using HIV antivirals, they're using malaria medication, they're using acetaminophen, which is very hard on the liver. We saw that with what happened in Samoa, and that we're hearing that there were vaccine laws that were passed in late last year, and that it's questionable that maybe the people who ended up dying or ended up having this virus were vaccinated with. And on top of that, that it's really the vaccinated people that become highly infectious and are shedding. Super spreader aside, like that's a different topic. So I'm curious to know, living in Beijing, are you familiar with the vaccine laws, and are you familiar with any of the supposed treatments?
I'll start. Personally, no, I'm not familiar with vaccine laws in any country, let alone in China. Why don't they? I've had most of my vaccines in the UK. I'm quite lucky, I think. I got most of them for free. So yeah, that's my contribution.
Or anything about any vaccine. I just know that any hospital costs, the testing, that's all covered by the government.
Do you know they're using a PCR test like in America? Because the CDC initially didn't want anyone else to use their test, and then there was a shortage, and PCR.
Every information right now is in Chinese. We do get like daily updates. The message is all in Chinese. So, like what Roger said, there were 20 new cases. It's written here that it is English updates at all. Yes, because I think the news right now, they limit their update to twice a week. Before I can get daily updates for, let's say, the Beijinger, which I followed in WeChat, Expat Focus, that's Beijing. Before I could get daily updates from them, but right now, I think they limit to twice a week. Correct me if I'm wrong.
So you guys don't know about treatments. They're not saying, "Hey, this is what we're doing to combat it," but it's more about isolation. That we know that would work. So
yeah, and also they emphasize a lot about like, hey, everything is free. Once you just need to go to the hospital, even though you're not sure if you have the virus, but you're suspecting that you have the virus, it's free. It's all covered by the government. This is emphasized because a lot of people were really, really scared that, hey, I don't have a lot of money, especially me. I didn't have a lot of money saved up. I didn't know how much will the hospital cost would be. So I researched, and then there were I forgot which media outlet it was, and then they posted an article regarding this, and they said, okay, all the costs, medical costs, testing, hospitalization, they're all covered by the government. They will help you out.
But if you're not sick, you don't have to go get tested, right? If you're not,
Yes.
if you're not exhibiting symptoms.
Yes, but if you just feel like, oh, maybe I have a cough and I'm having trouble breathing, I'm afraid that I have the virus, you can go get tested.
Can you find out if it's a PCR test?
Okay, let me check the article.
And also, there was one interview that I heard where if someone was caught going outside, then their quarantine starts all over again.
That's
Is
so
that
true.
something?
Yeah, that is true.
You want to say something about
That's
that,
fair.
Roger?
If I may interject there.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, Miriam, just something, a useful thing that I found out there. I'm not medically trained or medically knowledgeable, but somebody posted this and I read it and I thought, yeah, that makes sense. So we all know it's a respiratory pathogen. It gets into your lungs. It will kill you if you get it potentially through something like pneumonia, unless you're lucky enough to get a hospital bed. So when you get up in the morning, you get out of bed, stretch, do a little bit of exercise if you feel the inclination, and then take a deep breath. And then take another deep breath and hold this breath to the count of 10. And if you feel any tightness or any discomfort whatsoever, that is the early warning that you need to look for. Hold a deep breath for 10 seconds when you get out of bed in the morning. Each morning I do that. And this morning I did it. And you know what? No discomfort, no pain. And I carrying on with the rest of my life for today. That's it. Tomorrow I'll do the same.
It's interesting that you say that, because I just heard on Global News coming out of Canada that that's no longer a truth. And it's not to say that what you're saying is not true. It's a testament of what is happening is that we are being given this information. Maybe you know in the UK they've made it, they're looking to make it an offense, a criminal offense. So they're feeding us this information, and here we are, us free thinkers, trying to parse out the truth and then getting punished for it, when that's not our intent. It's by probing the improbable that you figure out as a detective what is real, and you test out different theories. So we've also seen or heard about people just having a cardiac arrest and dropping to the floor, and then there's the theory that the Wi-Fi at 60 gigahertz impacts negatively the oxygen absorption, and so it just drops, and then of course you would have a cardiac arrest, or you would stop having seizure if you can't uptake any oxygen, especially in a polluted place. So it's so interesting because there's all this information. I find it fascinating that you guys are under lockdown in Beijing. I think, if I may, that when our epigenetics, our surroundings, so Anina was saying that people trust their government and that the government has done a good thing, and that's certainly not the message that is being shared by the mainstream media. So it's really an honor to be able to speak to you guys and speak to how your perception of things are. It's fascinating because it's completely different than what we are getting here. But isn't it safe to say you guys have not seen sick people up close, and you do not know really what the treatments are, and regardless of what this is, there's still the same precautions of washing our hands, of things we should have been doing all along anyways as humans?
I think it's more stringent here. For example, again, like my awareness of my level got upped when I went out for the second time. First time I ran out of water. So that was kind of a dumb thing on my part. I remember in December and January, I looked at my big water bottle and I said, I have a half a thing left.
Anina, your picture froze. Sorry. Go on.
Yeah, so I looked at my water and I have a big vat of water and I had half a water and I said, that's enough. So that was kind of a mistake on my part. So first time I had to go out, I had to go get water. That was the mission, the water mission. The second time I went out, and there was no one anywhere, like nobody anywhere, and all of the packages and whatever had to be outside. It was like desert. And then the second time I went out, people that the few people I saw, they all had masks and they had gloves on. And I saw this guy come down right when I was coming back in, and he was getting, this is when they still allowed the deliveries in, and he was getting food delivered. He had like goggles on, the mask on, gloves on, and I remember looking at that and thinking, well, that's like a bit overdone, you know? And then I thought, actually, it's not. And then that's when I sort of upped my whole thing. And when I went into the supermarkets, I went to my organic market, I noticed that everybody had gloves on. And then the third time I went out, that's when everything was shut, meaning like shopping malls were closed. That's when I noticed that they only would allow one entrance into a building. That's when I noticed that everyone was starting to do temperature checks. And then a bit later came, I went out and to get some packages. And when I tried to come back in, they wouldn't let me back in because I didn't have this special card. And luckily, I would not have been able to get in, but bizarrely, I never talked to my neighbors, like never. And coincidentally, in that moment, there were some people behind me and I couldn't understand why I couldn't get back in. So they translated for me. And coincidentally, they were my neighbors. And they're like, oh, we know her. She lives next door. We'll take her to go get the card. Please let her in. And so then after that, sort of everything I saw just get really strict. And there was nobody in the shopping malls. The shopping malls weren't open. When they started to open, they had the guy at the front, and then I would go to the restaurant where I was going. They would, check me. Everybody in the restaurant had like sanitizer. They were wiping down menus. Not that there was anybody in there, and everybody was taking it very seriously. They were still just fulfilling, delivery orders and so on. And in the fruit market, everybody had masks on, everybody had gloves on. And so that's just how I kind of became aware that we really do need to do all of these things, and that they are effective. That's it. And just one last comment is, if we look at Singapore, Taiwan, and these two countries, they have very, very low rates of coronavirus. And the first thing that Taiwan did was anybody coming into the country had to go to mandatory quarantine. They get a cell phone from the government, a government cell phone that tracks them. And if they go out, they get a $10,000 fine. So the $10,000 fine is extremely effective to keep people home. So that's the last thing I say.
So we and these thread, which health official, she made the distinction in question. People think might be or for all. Of course, can't off and if for that
Very much.
Thank you.
You said that why they haven't closed down the borders. Let's say I can only talk for the Philippines and let's say Thailand. Is the primary source of income for those countries is tourism.
Your
Right.
audio went down a little, Shar. Your audio is not.
Yeah. So I said.
Say that again, please. Yeah, say it again.
Yeah. So I just said that I can only speak for the Philippines and Thailand. But I'm not from Thailand. Cause I just feel that they're kind of like similar. But anyway, I said that the primary source of income for those countries is tourism. So that's why the government in the Philippines, they're very hesitant in the beginning to close all borders. They just closed the borders when a plane full of Chinese people from Wuhan flew direct to Manila, that's the capital of the Philippines. So the people of the Philippines, we were really, really scared because the government did not do anything to stop this. But then they did do something. They were a little bit late. They asked the people who just came to the Philippines from Wuhan to go back to Wuhan.
I think Lettuce has a question for Roger.
Yes, Mariam reminded me of something. She said it and Roger has said it. Both of them have mentioned people who have the ability to see in the future and sort of see what's coming. Where do you get this ability from? How can people predict what might happen in the future, Roger? How can you stay in the loop and ahead?
It's extremely difficult. You have to cultivate a number of tools to use. I would say the first tool that you want to really is watching people's language when they talk and report. So Miriam, we've only met today, but I'm going to caution you when you refer to a fever gun. That is emotive. I'm going to ask you to refer to it as a temperature gun. You see, I'm a simple electronics engineer. So to me, it is a temperature gun. The words fever gun carry with them so
Roger, I'm sorry, I need to
raw
cut you.
negative emotion.
Our audio is not that good. I'm sorry. They
Yeah,
cannot
it's
hear
there was a
us.
patch there where the audio got really bad. We just have to wait for those data packets to go by. Now I've been optimizing, and now the stream is good. I'm sorry about that. I thought maybe you guys could still hear each other.
Letters as well. They didn't hear Lettuce.
All right, sure. So can you get some audio feedback for us, Shah? Is now a good time? Is it okay?
Double S.
It should be
Can you
improving
please
shortly.
comment down below if the audio is... You sound Anina. How about others? How about me? How about, Miriam, the channels you're in?
Brazil nuts, what do you think?
Brazil nuts is...
Maybe you guys can start that question again about the how to tell so that it comes through loud and clear.
Yeah, and I want to respond to you, Roger.
Yeah. So my question to Roger was, how can people see the future and see what's coming up? How can you predict what's coming? You mentioned some people, you can see what's coming. You know where this is leading to.
It's extremely difficult. I promise you I'm not good at foretelling the future. So to use an example or a way of speaking, a metaphor, my crystal ball is as good as yours. They both really don't work. So crystal ball gazing out. However, you can look at trends and you can analyze trends. So I'm not a statistician or a hugely qualified mathematician. I've been looking at the numbers here, and I've very quickly realized most of the numbers that are headlined are not really helping me. One statistic helped me, and I zoomed in on that, and that's the only statistic I'm interested in now. And that's the number of new infections yesterday, because it's only reported, for the day before. So you've got to zoom into little bits and little trinkets of value like that, and discard the fact that it's 170,000, or that America might have 70 million infected. That's you've got to put into its own category and say, okay, that came into me. I'm not going to let that bird make a nest in my hair. I don't like that particular bird. That's something my mother taught me. If you don't like something, don't let it go around in your mind. Kick it out. Acknowledge it, but kick it out. So I don't spend my time worrying about 70 or 150 million people getting infected, because that's not a fact yet. The facts are you can look at the number of new infections, and if it's going up, you should be taking more precautions. If it's going down, you should carry on with the level of precautions that you've taken until it's completely gone from the territory in which you're living. So it's little bits and pieces like that. I can't predict the future any better than anybody else. But if you see a trend, then it's most likely going to carry on in that particular direction. The things to watch for are turnings in trends. And one of my colleagues through a firm based in Shenzhen called Troublemaker, he knows more about mathematics, and he reminded me of my schoolboy mathematics, which was a while ago. And he said, if you take the derivative of a curve, now I don't expect that to mean too much to anybody in our audience unless you're a mathematician. If you take the derivative of the curve, you can see which way it is going. So if you remember, Ray Kurzweil has made his life out of foretelling how inadequate we are at exponential curves. Because if you're hunting an antelope in Central Africa 100 or 200,000 years ago, you don't need exponential mathematics. You need linear. You need to work out how fast is the beast going, how fast do I need to go, how hard must I pull the bow and arrow. There's nothing exponential in that. It's all linear. So our entire evolutionary development for at least the last 200,000 years has not involved anything that's exponential. Anina mentioned the possibility, just as an example, of exponentially increasing savings or compound interest rates. This is what we're talking about here, where one people can infect 3 people or 4. those four go out, and if you have ever had any exposure to that sort of exponential mathematics, it goes through the roof. The graph goes through the roof very quickly. It just goes up and up and up and up, and it becomes an asymptote with the y-axis. That's the technical terms. So look at the data that comes across, say, is this of value to you? And if it's not of value to you, don't dwell on it. And my takeaway, I think, is probably quite simple. Be careful what you spend your time thinking about. I choose to spend my time thinking about the fact that here in China, the number of infections is down, radically down. It's turned around. It's on its way out. Flu epidemics or flu pandemics, if you take in 1918 into account, they come and they go. These viruses don't live forever. Very few of them, if any, and I'm certainly not aware of any, that live through a season. So no matter how bad this gets, we will, as humanity, we will get to where this thing is a dim and a distant memory, and we'll say, yeah, that was a bad one. So that's my 2 pence worth. Sorry, that's all.
Thank you, Roger.
I'd love to hear what Miriam says
Mary,
about
you had a
that.
question.
Yeah, I for me, it's more like, there's people. I had a near-death experience. I was hit by a Ford Explorer and as a pedestrian, and after that, I developed sensitivities, and I think all of us are intuitive. It's a muscle that you have to practice. So for me, it was a get out of America. And it's been at least 5 years, and I've also seen just an abyss. What it would come to me when I was making the film Vanishing of the Bees is like, and this was like 2008, 2009, that there's an abyss that's being formed between the people that are awake and the people that are asleep. I didn't know that it would pronounce itself as literally having alternative realities where people, I'm seeing it in the politics between Democrats and Republicans, to simplify it, in political parties. So it was just a calling to leave. And I think what you focus on, you do find, like Roger said, this is why I don't watch war movies or I don't watch horror. But I do spend, and I have spent more than 12 years looking at poisons. And I think that we are the bees that are slowly being poisoned with sublethal doses. And we've created a perfect storm. And we can't say it's this that's caused the death. So from my perspective, someone might come in with a pulmonary issue and they might be treated with something that worsens, or maybe they have another pre-existing condition and they die, but they're going to be classified as a COVID-19. Let us remind ourselves that people die every single day. I would like to know, for instance, which I haven't looked into, how many people, because there's an older generation in Italy, how many people die usually in Italy every day? And has that gone up? Because now we're just classifying. In America, there's a journalist called John Rappaport, who I'm a big fan of, who's been an investigative reporter for 30 years and been covering big pharma. And it's like there's a catch-all in America where there's influenza-like illnesses. And what I've seen is that it seems to be a new normal, that people have the sniffles or have some congestion, or it's being normalized, just like we're seeing pathology being normalized. How we're seeing right now, we're being given in increments what's happening, but in reality, what is happening? I don't think it's an accident that it's Italy and the Vatican, or it's Iran and or it's China, especially with all the disinfo. As far as what you said, Roger, as far as being careful with the language, I completely agree. I should be careful with the language. I guess I'm saying it as, again, that vision of like they're going to weaponize this temperature, where they're going to use it against me, and I am at risk. I've dealt with mold toxicity, so I've gone through bouts where I have 45 effing days in a row that I've had low fever, because I had Epstein-Barr virus was reinstigated in my body, and mold was aggravated. So I am personally scared of being of control as someone who's a free thinker. So that's my perspective of where I'm coming from saying a fever gun, because I do feel that they're going to weaponize it and use it against some people. And I don't trust. Yeah. Go ahead.
You mean weaponizing the temperature gun in the context of using the data that comes out of it, your temperature, against you or other people to gain control over them, to force them into quarantine or vaccine or whatever. That I do understand. I'm completely okay with that. But the temperature gun itself is I know the electronics. I'm busy building them because there's a huge market for these things now.
Sure. Okay. So I see your point.
There's no weaponization of the actual instrument.
Sure. Absolutely. I mean, today I read about a new bill that was passed just as of late in Australia that will imprison you under certain conditions. You must follow, I tweeted about it, where you can face jail time and you can be forced to be vaccinated. That scares the shit out of me. I do not, if you want, I respect someone's choice if they want to put something inside of them, but that frightens me. Is it different in America when you see that they're building up all these FEMA camps, seeing reports of homeless people? Like, what if this is to wipe out the baby boomers, the older generation, the people with pre-existing conditions, the people in the nursing homes, the people in the prisons? What's going in Iran? Why did they
hold on.
Yeah,
that's just pure speculation. So we'll speculate offline, not online. But if we just to go back, we've heard of accounts in Hong Kong where somebody was put into self-quarantine. They didn't obey the self-quarantine. The police or authorities knocked on the hotel door. The person wasn't there. They left a guard outside. When they came back, they arrested him, put him in prison for 6 months and gave him, I don't know the financial fine, but he had a fine and he's in prison currently. You need to do this once or twice, and then people savvy up and they realize if you are put into quarantine and you've undertaken to stay in quarantine, stay there. But I wish to go back to something else that you've raised, because I think it could be of value to our listeners. So unbeknown to you and I, you and I both have a very strong and deep history in the bees and what is probably going wrong with them. What I've not mentioned here, and I really, Anina, I don't want to hijack this thing, so say stop if you wished me to. About 5 years ago, I actually came down with a heart attack, and I kept myself physically fit, in top form. Came down with a heart attack. I did not see this coming. I actually just had a game of squash rackets. I walked back into the reception and I felt so weak. I thought, well, now is a good time to sit down on the sofa, because otherwise I'm going to fall down and I don't feel like hitting the floor that hard. So I sat down, and within 30 seconds I passed out. I had no pain. So the Hollywood thing of, oh, my right arm, my chest, load of rubbish. I had no pain right throughout this thing. I only knew that it was a heart attack when I was wheeled into surgery for putting a stent into my heart. And they said, may we have your permission to put a stent into your heart? And because I keep myself well read, I knew what they had asked. And I said, yeah, does this mean I've had a heart attack? And they said, yes, you've had a heart attack. So that's the first time I knew. So when I got discharged, because I analyzed everything to the bottom, I looked at this and I thought, well, now I'm going to have to reverse engineer my health and find out how this thing came about. And it's actually the herbicides that are in all of our food and in all of our cells that should not be there. That was one of 3 essential things. Had that not been there, I would not have come down with that heart attack. So we have a
chemical body burden.
You guys, I'm very sorry to interrupt, but never mind. Continue.
So chemical body burden is
okay.
I thought we were offline, and then I was trying all these things, and it suddenly came back online. Actually, you guys, I would love to steer. Of course, Miriam, please do you guys finish up this topic. But I would like to steer also the conversation to what Shar was saying yesterday about, I thought this message was important to get out there. She was specifically addressing the Filipino workers. And also, Lettuce has another question. So if you guys could wrap that question up, I would love to give Shar some airtime about that message to the Filipinos, and then Lettuce having a question.
I'm good. I have nothing to say at this moment. Thank you.
So yesterday in our last live stream,
sorry.
Shar had a very amazing point to lots of Filipino workers don't earn a lot of money, and they're in the service industry of low-level working. And she was saying that a lot of them don't want to, they want to keep going to work and so on. So Shar, if you're there, could you talk a little bit about the specific problem?
Can you guys hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, so before I go into that, there's a question, like this is the fourth time that it has been asked. It has been asked 3 times by Brazil Nuts, and now Dave Douglas also asked this question. He said, has anyone personally known anyone who has passed? The virus is real, it's contagious, it's real. Its deadliness is overblown by the media to cause fear and panic, which cause more sickness. Hold on. Do we know that the elderly who have passed away from the virus so far, only elderly have allegedly passed, wouldn't have died otherwise, or may have died of the flu, as so many have? I would just like to, I answered Douglas in the chat box. I said there was a news outlet that posted an article that confirmed that not only elderly got infected. I'm trying to find the news now, but there was one, because I stopped following the news, but there was one time that the news media outlet in China posted a young child got infected. Correct me if I'm wrong, Roger, if you've been following the news. There was one, and then it was the time that I got a little bit scared because, I thought I was safe because I'm not that old. And then it turns out everybody can get infected.
I mean,
Sure. So the only piece of news I can perhaps bring to a wider audience is this thing scored its first martyr. It was a medical doctor in Wuhan who reported it, and a few days, or maybe 7 or 8 days later, actually succumbed to it and died. He was 31. So it's not just the older people. In all our populations, we do expect old people to die. This is called aging. That's another topic which we'll cover at some other point in time. So older people do grow old. They do succumb to diseases and they do die. This is just life as we know it currently. I have heard that it's very difficult or very unlikely for youngsters and children to get it, but I don't know if that's a fact. I have absolutely no way to know whether that's factual or not. But it's not just for old people. The 31-year-old doctor, he became the first martyr to this thing here in China. There was loud outcry about the process that was initially used to silence him, because what he had to say would possibly have steered this thing in a less dangerous direction, but he was kept quiet. Does that answer your question?
Right now I can confirm January 27, 3:20 p.m. a 9-month-old Beijing baby got infected.
Okay, so I would like to say something. We do not know what really is. Can you hear me? Let's just start again. This test is faulty. It's a faulty test. I want to say that in America, they've now issued Roche to issue a new PCR test. I don't know the accuracy, but if you have false negatives and presumptive, another term by the Ministry of Truth, presumptive cases, aka an assumption, okay? We do not know for certain unless, and there was an opinion, by the way, in regards to, I don't know who it was in the group that stated in a poll that until someone who personally knows someone that's gotten COVID-19, will it be real? But even then, I don't know if they're autopsying, but if you have from the get-go, here it's in a state of emergency. So if you look at the actual inserts, it says and I'm listening to the congressional hearings every day, hours. This is where the truth is. This is where the questions are. And this is if you are fluent in doublespeak, you can understand what's coming, at least in America. So all they've been talking about is the tests, lack of tests, contaminated tests, who's making the tests. So now Quest and LabCorp have been issued. Do you know that they already financed the CDC? At least Quest does. It's on their donor list. So
follow the money.
Yes. So that's the first thing. We're dealing with a test that's under emergency circumstances. You look and it says it's not FDA approved, folks, but it's okay because it's an emergency and people are going to beg for those tests. In fact, they're lining up in drive-thrus. So that to answer this person's or Brazil Nut's question, we do not know for certain if a 9-month-old or whatever old, because a lot of people are having this pulmonary and pneumonia issues. Also, what were they spraying in China? Do you guys know? Because even if it's bleach, that's toxic. I'm sorry to bring it back, but I'd like to know, what's your experience of what they're using as disinfectants?
All this was reported, but it was a disinfectant, I guess.
We simply don't know. People at street level in China will never ever know what is being used as disinfectants. I've been disinfected personally once or twice on going into building premises in Shenzhen. It's odor-free. It has no smell. You certainly don't smell any.
It's odor-free unless you have nose blindness, or is it really odor-free?
It's really odor-free, just like steam with water.
Really? So what do you guys know about Charles Lieber and nanotechnology and the possibility of something being vaporized or aerosolized? Have you heard of that theory?
I have heard of that. Yet again, I may be completely 180 degrees out of phase here. In my opinion, from what I've seen in all of a year and a bit in China, I would find it highly unlikely that the Chinese government would do something like that. If you were to ask me, do I think that the US government is capable of doing that? Hell yeah. Sorry, but that's how it is. That's my reading of circumstances today.
But
there were even congressional hearings. You mentioned congressional hearings. I don't tune into that on a daily basis, but I did watch one, and it was where one of the key players was asked, is there any possibility that this virus originated in America and was taken to Wuhan when some 200 military personnel went there late last year? And the respondent could not and did not say yes or no. That should have been a very clear no. It was not. So back to doublespeak.
I just find it fascinating because we've been shown so much spraying that's coming out of China. And there was one photo that I circled that was coming out of South Korea. So it was, imagine like 5 people, the guy in the front, it's like the team of disinfectors, and the guy, they're all in hazmat suits. And a lot of this photo, you're like, there's this weirdness, like you're wearing a complete hazmat suit and you're just wearing a mask. You're not wearing anything at all. So in this photo, the dude in the front had his glasses up for the photo. I'm like, what is this? A ham that just wants to have you're spraying crap in the air. So is this BS? Are you guys being sloppy in your fear porn campaign? What is going on? So that's fascinating again to me that you're not, you guys don't know, and it has no odor. Because, okay, so have you guys heard of those 3 arrests? It was misconstrued and tied with coronavirus, but it was 2 Chinese nationals, all arrested, and the Department of Justice gave a speech. One was Charles Lieber. Have you heard of this man?
No.
No.
Okay, so he's he works at Harvard. He's up there, as you'd say, an elitist or an asset. He's a top nanoscientist. He has over 50 patents. Many of them have to do with nano-sized particles that would arguably be inserted in the body and then be able to suss out disease. So one of the nationals is wanted by the FBI, a female. She's arguably somewhere in China. The other one, and they're maybe 30 years old, the other one is a male that was caught at the airport with 21 vials, 8 vials stolen from Beth Israel Hospital, and then the rest he had replicated. Because I've looked at the court documents and the affidavits and from the FBI. And then the third one is this man, Charles Lieber. The Department of Justice, there's video where he says that he's been accused of espionage because he was working with the Wuhan University, technology university. And he was part of the 1,000 Plants project, where there's a lot of scientists that the Chinese are trying to bring back intellectual minds, which this person is definitely one. Interestingly, on his court documents, which are sealed, it says that he's only accused of falsifying documents. He has to answer to the USPO. That's not the U.S. Post Office, it's the U.S. Patent Office. He was let off on $1 million cash bond. Nobody talks about him. There's also a paper from 2015 that is also with the Wuhan Virology Institute that shows a sequencing of a virus that is part SARS, part HIV, part coronavirus that is very similar. So whether it came from the United States and then was snuck in, it certainly did not start in a wet market, is my feeling. Having studied Ebola, and when you look at patient 0 and ground 0, it's always fuzzy. With Ebola, it was a supposed man that walked in from a neighboring village. But in reality, when you start looking, it's the mercenaries who were vaccinated against hemorrhagic fever that were the first to die, and that were arguably the ones that infected the Shanti hospital in the Bumba region. So people are buying this wet market theory. I don't. I'd love to turn it to you. I just wanted to share that because, again, it's fascinating that you guys are not hearing this information that's coming that is about China.
Well, this is natural. When we're in China, we're only going to be exposed to the Chinese information flows, apart from what we can get through VPN. So most Westerners in China have VPN, and that's the only way we can get hold of outside reports. If you're in America, you're not going to have any way to get correct, valid information from China. This is just the world we live in. You've got to make the best out of that and say what could be the reason for this information being put out, and what could this work out into. So I also don't think Wuhan was ground zero. I think there's evidence if America had come clean, they would have said yes or no. They said neither. I mean, why obfuscate it? Why make it unclear? If the answer is clear, say no. This is, like communication 101. So many smoking guns, many flames, many fires, lots of smoke. Very difficult to work it out. It's up to the individual to work out what information they place any credence on in this circumstance. But you seem to be ahead of the curve in terms of the rest of, or certainly of where I am in terms of what's going on with all these other players like Liba.
Lettuce, you have some question?
My question does turn the topic to a different theme, though, so feel free to not answer it if you don't want to. I was going to direct the question to Roger. So, Roger, you mentioned the increase in demand for temperature guns. What other tech is growing in demand at the moment?
I don't know if you'd call it tech, but the demand for face masks has gone through the roof, because every country that's looking at disinfection is saying we've got to get face masks onto the people. There are only so many face masks in stock. Stock is limited because there's no need to carry millions and billions of these things. So face masks, if that can be classified as tech, it is of dubious value. I don't honestly know, but when I go out, I put my face mask on. If for nothing else, it stops me touching my mucous membranes, my mouth, my nose, etc. while I'm outside. That's the key issue. You've got a clean zone. You're inside. You can touch your face and your mouth because I washed my hands a few minutes ago. That's okay. When you're outside, stop doing that, and that is exceedingly difficult. The only other tech is sensors. It's actually the sensors for the temperature guns. Anybody can make a temperature gun. It's a piece of plastic that you put into a mold. It's a printed circuit board, which China is exceedingly good at making. But the sensors, there's a limited supply. I've personally looked at this because I'm involved in the market myself, and the price of the sensors has gone up 200 times. I've never seen any price of any electronics component broke. They used to cost, you could buy them for 16 American cents. That's 0.16 of a US dollar. Now they are very close to 17 US dollars. That's 100 times. It's just, whoa. There are other people who claim slightly lower and slightly higher, but those are the figures that I'm happy to go with. So in terms of other tech, is it a sensible thing to do? Yes, I think it's sensible. If for nothing else, it increases people's awareness that something big is going down. I spoke with my daughter again last night, and she said she's 22. She's spoken to all her mates, and they said, no, this is nothing. It's a mild flu. Don't sweat over it. And I said to her, are you aware that the stock markets are crashing? Are you aware that oil has crashed Monday last week? And of course, she's a young.
But arguably, this is what they want. This is really an economic reset. This is a black swan event. And again, there's no accidents between, someone leaked information to me that, and I'll share it live now. I shared it with Anina earlier that, for instance, that Justin Trudeau was served and that there's going to be a lot of arrests, like you've heard all of these CEOs, and there's a cleaning up that's happening. There's some people that are saying that there's going to be a jubilee. There's actually going to be positive because here in America there are the patriots, and they're trying to overthrow the globalists and the pedophilia ring, and that there's something a lot deeper that's really occurring, and I'm just maybe the reason why I'm just trying to inhale everything. I follow patterns, like you said, Roger, and look at connecting the dots. Yes. I know in Canada, as a Canadian, they've done a horrible job of containing this, and I don't think it's accidental. My mom is in her 70s. I'm concerned about her. She's living in a moldy home, and she's always has a cold and has a compromised lung system. So I know for Canada, for instance, the point is there's stuff that we can't see that's behind, and yeah.
So back to the possibility of this being a financial reset, I think that could be a very positive thing. The way the world has financialized itself is absolutely appalling. The difference between rich and poor is something that is going to haunt us and our children and grandchildren as to a monument to how ineffectively we have governed and managed our affairs this far in human society. So is this a maybe? I would say no, because we're already looking at a 5 trillion wipeout in value in global stock markets. Now, to most of our listeners, you're going to realize that's a big number. Write it down, and then you'll see how big a number that is. 5 trillion in the last few weeks. It is enormous. Did any of our listeners anticipate that oil would crash earlier this week? Not one. That could be a very clever political play. We know the usual suspects in that game. Could it be that this could be used as a trigger to de-fossil fuel energy? I think that's one of the positive things that could come out of this. In other words, it's going to be heads up for any big institutions who are knee-deep in investments in the fossil fuel industry. That has got to stop. It's got to go away. Otherwise, our future generations don't have any future. We are killing the planet that gave birth to us. What do you think the planet's going to do? Do you think it's going to sit back and say, oh, well, that's just really tough. We've got this little scum living on the surface and it's killing me. It's going to scratch and shiver and shudder and get rid of the scum that's causing all this ecological damage at an unprecedented scale. So from my point of view, I tend to spend less time thinking about the calamity theories and the conspiracy theories. I'm looking at nature and I'm saying, well, if nature had a will and a way to get rid of humanity, why wouldn't nature do that for the way we've been custodians, as custodians of our home? We've just dug up everything and burned it. And we've even got a name for that. It's called GDP. We all know what GDP is. That's the rate at which we burn and dig up stuff, burn it, and throw it away. That financializes it. We now know who's the best at basically taking out raw materials, creating a single product, and throwing it away when we're finished. That's got to stop. That's got to stop. There are many, many powerful people involved in the circular economy. B corporations are a thing that came up over my horizon, and my own company is going in the direction of registering as a B corporation. What that means, for our listeners who may not be aware of this, is a B corporation is a corporation that gives a far broader return to its stakeholders. The stakeholders are not just the shareholders. That's how business is done today. A B corporation, the stakeholders are everybody, every person living on the planet. And there are rules and regulations. You are tightly examined as to whether you can become a B corporation. But I think this could be the reset, and out of this reset could come a whole new rash of corporations that realize shareholder value is not the key. That is the key to increasing GDP and the key to wrecking our home as fast as you can. The key is to build B corporations which hand out social impact, not necessarily direct financial impact, but social impact is key. This is the way forward. This might be the reset button that allows us to get, yeah?
Or if what's happening is the dismantling of the corrupt Federal Reserve is also a theory of what's happening that obviously is tied into the economy. And did you guys know that they're giving, first it was 8.3 billion. There's the story that everybody the Democrats or leftists, everything is Trump's fault, and they blame Trump. It went to billion, and now under the state of emergency, plus billion.
So you guys, I'd love to give Shar a little bit of airtime
of that
when you guys finish that conversation,
me too.
if you don't mind.
Go ahead, Shar. Go for it.
I'm okay. A lot of people on the chat box are a little angry because it seems that they're not getting heard. Dave Douglas comment. They're even checking the chat box. I'm sorry, Dave. It's green news. Roger. He,
How many people? I think I would like to invite people to follow us. I don't know if you guys are on a 3. Really?
you don't give a about E Corporation.
Okay. You have
Um, not but they Chinese West Chinese news, and I don't know. They just not. But then again, it doesn't leave.
Yes, so if I may, let's try and steer the conversation away from conspiracy theories that other people debate. I don't have any. I spend a little time. I look and I discard them one by one, just interested. But here are the facts. If you're living in America, you don't have any access to that information.
Yeah, especially now with all the fear porn.
No. So likewise in China, do you really about what's going on in USA? It's not going to happen. So this is why there are. It's why we've got to dig deep. It's why every fact that comes across my horizon, I dispose 100 because they're not facts. Right? You dispose and let this could come up with the circumstances that we've faced, and some of the good you but if I know that is not new. It was mentioned that there may be a financial reset. The reserve in America, reserve banks are all, many people in the public domain don't know one family that owns and controls it. If they're not implicated in what's going on in the world, get real. Of course, money is what you use to control other people. So the system itself is broken. You understand how you will not like money at all. You test how money has, quote unquote, weaponized against every single one of us. The value in our signatures is taken from us. Signed bits and pieces of paper in the international that we live. So focus on what we can look at the circumstances around us, and we can make a way forward, a way to step forward, and a way to leave behind the mess that is going to be the havoc and panic that as a result of this particular any people are mad and false and vague information. I'm very careful.
Hey, you guys. I think that
You make very careful.
Go on, Nina.
I just wanted to say that that the sound was bad, and I want to give it a minute for the stream to catch again. And Shar, I would really love it if you would say what you said yesterday about the Filipino workers, that you said you addressed them yesterday. And as you know, lots of people are, out of work, and they keep going to work, and they do that because they have no other way. But you told them, to tech up and to think about going online. And I think from a business perspective, that's what my company has been doing, definitely, and what I've been doing. And also, I think that that's really good advice.
I think that they are, the rumors are they want down their capital, Metro Manila. That's not rumors going like it's going down. There's like a list of now are to take food. There's earn, but it's not have medical insurance because believe you for medical. So if you can like what a base as maybe social I need smart thousand 500.
I just think this has gone because the program. Darn, I hope you post. So I'm recording. I could, it, but I don't know if you are posting it so that I can. We could again.
Hey everyone. I cannot hear so well. So, but I heard you say we should do this again. So I think it's an indication that we should wrap it up. We do have 12 people watching, so if there's anything that you would like to say in conclusion, I do want to say thank you so much. You know, this is definitely a good test, and from my side, there's one thing that I can try, which is to stop the stream and immediately restart it. Could you allow me to do that test right now? Because I'd like to see what happens when I do that. Do you guys mind? Would it be all right with you? Okay. Would it be all right with you guys? Okay, 1 second. I'm going to cut the stream and then try to pick it back up. People. Okay, we are again picking up the stream, and I am saying that we are going to be live in just a minute. I shut this down and I'm trying to pick up the stream again.
We're anymore.
Okay. So on my side, we've just picked up again. I'm trying to catch the feed. It may be a new feed, but now Miriam, you should be back online. The name is Shari. You should be back online. Lettuce Travels YouTube back online. Lettuce Travels Facebook online. YouTube stream of 360 Fashion online. Periscope 360 Fashion online. Waiting for 360 Fashion on Facebook. And Anina Net is 360 Fashion, and Anina Net is online. Only waiting for the 360 Fashion Facebook to get back online. So just checking in. And Roger, you are in limbo Skype land. And Lettuce, you are not coming through.
I can hear well too.
I cannot hear well.
Let me check my page. I think I saw it come up.
Now you're back, Lettuce.
Yeah. Cool.
But Roger, you're not back. At least not in the streaming app. You're present, but your video is not. But I can see you in the Skype app.
Okay.
Maybe. Now you're back. Okay, great. Now we're all back. Just change positions a little bit. I kind of liked you, Miriam, in the top, but I have no way to put you back there. No. I can put her in the bottom. Hold on. Let me see if I can put Miriam at the top. No. It's I want to put Miriam, no offense, at the top there because she's sort of moderating and stuff. And
so I've been listening on my end now for the first time, and the sound is good. It's too bad that it's. I need to go to sleep because it's 11:30. I don't know what time is it over there.
We're in the day.
1:30 p.m. But yes, definitely time to go.
But I would really, if I can tell my audience ahead of time and I can tweet ahead of time. I mean, I have people that are following. Anina, I'm very grateful for you inviting me and meeting
We're live
you
now
lovely
again.
people.
We're live now again. So
Okay.
just wanted to come back and see if we could pick up this stream really quickly and to say that, yes, all a bit experimental. We are coming back online at 360 Fashion Facebook, Anina Dress Up, Periscope, 360 Fashion, Twitter is online, YouTube, 360 Fashion Network is online, Lettuce Travels, Facebook is online, Lettuce Travels YouTube is online. The name is Shar. YouTube is online. Miriam Heinem is back online on YouTube, and I think we are, as I can see, transmitting. Just want to check a few things, and basically we wanted to just come back and say goodbye. We wanted to say goodbye. So,
and then we will do this. We will do this again. And this was an awesome first run.
yes.
And I just want to say to Shar and Lettuce and Roger and Anina, thank you for sharing your information. It's too bad nobody, on the most part, could hear us because it was brilliant. Thank you, Anina.
I'm just still learning, and if I don't have you guys here doing it, I can't, figure out all the things that can go wrong until I can perfect it. So from my perspective, I would love to keep doing this. It gives me more practice and experience of how to optimize it. So without you guys, I wouldn't be even able to do that. It'd be just me, and that's not a good enough test. So I think that it's a wonderful idea. If our audience would like us to keep coming back, I think it's good to have a regular time where we can tell people when we're coming. So, just really great to have you all here. Thank you so much for sharing your experience. And thank you, Miriam, also for really those incredible questions and helping us understand what's happening in the United States. And, really good to also think together. I am 100% sure that this conversation, what happened today between us, is happening in groups, face-to-face, in Facebook groups, in chats and private chats, and people asking the same questions, people having the same concerns. And the reason why Shar, Lettuce, I, Roger, Miriam all wanted to come here was to tell you what we see is the truth and working, talk to you and also together about sharing information, and then also to really impress upon you to look at the countries where containment is working and to copy that model would be my advice. If everyone would go around and maybe give a last bit of advice, what they think or their takeaway from today would be great. How about you, Lettuce?
Good question. My takeaway from today, to be honest, I haven't thought about it yet. I haven't processed it yet, but I did write down a quote from Roger, which I really liked. He said, "Don't let the birds make a nest in your hair. Tell the bird to fly away." I thought that was very nice. So that's my main takeaway. Thank you very much. Great to speak to you all. Thank you.
How about you, Shar?
Thank you.
Okay, I think just fact check everything. I've learned a lot from Miriam and Roger. Fact check everything. Like what Roger said is just like, because we're in China, so we just get access to what is given to us. Same thing with the US. You can't really access information in China. So just fact check everything. Don't believe everything you read. Fact check everything yourself.
How about you, Roger?
I reckon wash your hands and stop touching your face.
That's hard.
Namaste.
And don't go outside?
Namaste.
I don't know. Miriam, do you want to wrap it up with your, insight? You've been following this for a really long time. Love to hear what you have to say.
Thank you. I definitely want to do this again. I don't think it's anything that you did, Anina. I think it's the fact that I'm in Costa Rica and you guys are in China, and there's a bandwidth issue, or the speed of the internet is not that great. I think that it's fascinating that we're normalizing self-imprisonment, and it's wonderful that we're making the best of it. And that this is being normalized, and what I've taken away is that the community is strong, and the community will find a way to connect no matter what. But from my perspective, despite the fact that you guys are in China, none of you have seen the things that we have been shown, which does, I'm not saying that what I'm seeing is true by any means, but it's fascinating just from an anthropological, cultural, sociological perspective. I still can't say that the people who are dying have this new virus, knowing that we have a virome and we have been living with viruses for millennia, unless you were a creationist and think the Earth is very young. So I would love to really actually say to my listeners, my audience, on Tuesday at X, we are going to have to speak to actual real human beings that are, real life under quarantine. So yeah, thanks so much, Anine. I'm really, really grateful to speak to all of you. Honestly, thank you.
Yeah, and I would just like to say, in that matter, true or not true, it's happening, and so you need to get your business in line, and it is definitely affecting everything. So you need to optimize, you need to tech up, you need to go with this flow, and then that's the number one thing is what I would say. And then also, I think you're right. Very interesting just was this week that I met someone who actually was directly in contact with someone whose CFO has it, and then also just I want to make one more thing is my fashion designer of my lab, now that she's out of her 14 days, she's going around. She went to Hubei to talk to factories. She's going out to eat with her friends. I've seen people in my church night go out on date night. So that's a very valid point that Miriam says, in a certain sense, that, there are people that are sort of putting out feelers. I saw for the first time one guy in the elevator with no mask on. Maybe he wasn't going so far, but maybe he was actually testing. Who knows? But I guess the only way I think that we can do is keep coming together as people. No matter what, don't let the conversation stop, and don't let us stop from communicating.
Absolutely, sister.
Cool.
All right.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you all.
Thank you all.
Thank you guys so
Thank you very
much.
much.
I'm Anina.
Thank you.
My name is Lettuce. I have a YouTube channel called Lettuce Travels.
I'm Roger. Peace to all of you.
Miriam.
I am Miriam, aka B Lady. I am a censored investigative journalist, and I'm reporting live on my Twitter feed. Please follow me at Miriam Henein, Henein. Thank you.
Shar.
My name is Shar from The Name is Shar. Thank you so much for tuning in, even though we have a lot of audio issues. Thank you so much to all the people who commented and stay until the end, unlike Brazil Nuts.
And I
Brazil
shall
Nuts is
continue
cancelled.
to try to get it right. And thank you guys so much for being here and testing all this and having this conversation. I feel less alone. Thank you.
Great.
Yeah. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. So when can we do it again?
Let's get that plan together and announce it.
Yeah. Yes.